I'm Senator Alex Padilla. I have questions for the Secretary.
Can you tell me what happened to you on, I believe it was June 12th of this year?
I had the audacity of trying to ask a question. Yeah, a question at a press conference when Secret Service and other federal agents put me on the ground.
Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and put behind my back.
All right.
Flat on my chest, handcuffed me, and were escorting me out.
Excuse my language, but that is such unbelievable bullshit.
That's fucked up. It is.
So thank you, Senator Padilla of California. Thanks so much for talking with me today.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. There's obviously a lot going on.
Absolutely. There is a ton going on. Before we get into the National Guard deployment in San Francisco, I wanted to ask a little bit about the California City ICE Detention Center, the government shutdown. I also just wanted to touch base briefly on something that just happened that maybe just sets the stage for just how odd things are. A few days ago, we saw the No Kings protest. We saw, I believe, 7 million Americans protesting across this country. Donald Trump's response was to post an AI video of him dressed as a king in a fighter jet, defecating on Americans who are exercising their First Amendment rights. What are Americans supposed to think about the president's state of mind? What are they supposed to think when they see something like that?
Yeah, well, first of all, he's obviously not serious about the job, or he's not serious about trying to do what's right for American families across the country. This is him, plain and simple. We've seen how vindictive he is. We've seen how hateful he is. And it manifests itself in the agenda that he's chosen to pursue. You know, we happen to be in the middle of a government shutdown right now, one that's been weeks long and going. He's talking about building ballrooms in the White House. He's talking about sending billions of dollars to Argentina to bail out their economy, and not addressing the main sticking point in this government shutdown conversation, which is how do we keep healthcare costs from spiking for American families? So sadly, it tells you all you need to know about Donald Trump.
Right. And so you've talked about the shutdown. We're in the midst of that shutdown. It seems like Democrats' responsibility to let people know this is about healthcare. This is about their bills. How do you communicate that to people across this country? I know there's a fight between Democrats and Republicans about who needs to own this shutdown, but it seems like Democrats are doing this to help Americans be able to pay for healthcare. How do you communicate that?
We are trying to cover the airwaves through traditional media, podcasts, in-person events, House members in their own districts organizing town halls, in every way possible, putting the word out, because look, nobody wanted to go into a shutdown. I know who shutdowns tend to hurt the most, but this is a shutdown brought to us by Republicans. Remember, they're in the majority right now in the House and in the Senate. They occupy the White House. If they wanted to avoid a shutdown, they easily could have.
So we've heard that. We've talked to people. They say if Republicans wanted to avoid the shutdown, they could have. What would the mechanism of that be? How would they do that if they wanted to force it?
So the mechanism is to bring enough Democrats along to keep the government funded. And all Democrats have asked for is, as we do it, let's address a very immediate concern, which is healthcare premiums spiking for millions and millions of Americans across the country. The Republicans keep saying, no, let's reopen government. We'll negotiate that, maybe address it next year, maybe address it before the end of the year. Anybody who is signing up for healthcare, or anybody who's revisiting their plan currently, knows that there's this open enrollment period that starts November 1st or sooner. And so right now is when you're picking which plan you're going to select, what premiums you're going to have to pay. And without this premium tax credit that we have been funding for years, keeping healthcare affordable, without that, people's premiums are going to shoot up $1,000, $2,000 or more. Not next year, not later this year, immediately. And so
are people seeing that when they try to enroll? Is that something they're seeing now, or is that something that will just surprise them later on?
No, people are getting, however they get their premium estimates, whether it's the letter in the mail or whether it's online, they're seeing what their plan will cost for the next year, because they have to make that selection now. And most providers are putting sort of the side by side. Here's what it cost last year. Here's what it's going to cost this year. That significant spike is what Republicans are causing and refusing to address. And so that's how we've ended up in this shutdown. And again, we know who's impacted, who's hurt by shutdowns. In the meantime, we have Donald Trump spending way too much time generating AI videos and memes, spending way too much time trying to make his billionaire friends even richer, spending way too much time trying to pursue these vanity projects for himself, literally demolishing a wing of the White House.
Yeah, what are we again as Americans seeing that? You're seeing literally the East Wing of the White House being demolished. What does it tell you about Donald Trump's mentality going forward? Clearly, his vanity project, his ballroom that's going to be completed in 2028, which would be when he's leaving the White House, right? What should people think when they're watching the demolishing of the East Wing?
But look, this is just yet another example of a Donald Trump that is out of control. For all his talk and those around him about the rule of law, they have complete disregard for the rule of law. For all their talk about standing up for the Constitution, they have a complete disregard for not just the Constitution, but our fundamental constitutional rights, whether it's the failed tariff wars, which he hasn't authorized, whether it's destruction of a wing of the White House, or other more serious matters, like his mass deportation agenda. Right? It's not just ICE agents that are in cities across the country. It's not just Border Patrol that are in cities across the country now, pulling over, detaining, arresting, stopping non-violent criminals. There's some violent criminals out there, and if that was their only target, there wouldn't be a debate. But the vast majority of people that are getting rounded up do not have violent criminal convictions, are actually workers in very essential jobs for our economy and our security. And when communities sort of protest how this administration is going about it, what's Donald Trump's response? He federalizes National Guard troops and he militarizes American cities. Started in Los Angeles months and months ago, and now we've seen it in Washington, D.C. We've seen it in Chicago. We've seen it in Portland, and he's threatening now to go to San Francisco. This administration is out of control, needs to be reined in.
And so that was how things started, was saying we are going to find, violent criminals. We're going to deport those violent criminals. What percentage of people that are being detained and deported are non-violent criminals?
Yeah, the last batch of data from ICE, by the way, from the Department of Homeland Security, was way north of 70% of the people being rounded up that did not have
Are not
criminal
violent criminals. And so you said his response to that, instead of reining it back, is just to send troops into these cities and double down. And that's
and I got to squeeze this in. I got to make sure to
Yep.
mention this. Let's remember who Donald Trump's border czar is, right? Tom Homan, the individual who was caught on tape accepting thousands and thousands of dollars of
But
bribes.
that's probably how you get your paycheck, right?
Of course, it's not normal. This administration is not normal. This is, again, yet another example. So, a real simple question, not to get too far into the weeds here, but a real simple question is so what happened to that cash, right? Did the FBI agents retrieve it, return it to the evidence locker, and log it back in? Or did Holman keep it? And is he going to claim it on his taxes that should be available soon enough? So that money went somewhere.
ICE agents already deployed National Guard. There's an argument over sending National Guard into San Francisco. Can you clarify, is San Francisco a particularly dangerous place to be right now? Does this make any sense? Is there any justification for this?
Look, here's the truth about San Francisco. Crime is down. You talk to the mayor, talk to the chief of police, talk to the district attorney, in pretty much every single category, crime is down. Violent crime is now down to levels not seen since the 1950s. That's the truth about San Francisco today. But Donald Trump doesn't have time for the truth. He's going to deploy the National Guard troops into San Francisco because he thinks he has the authority. He thinks he has unquestioned power. That's his ultimate objective, unquestioned power to do what he wants, to militarize American cities. We've seen what he's done to the Republican majority in Congress. They're just rubber stamping everything that he wants. You see him going after law firms and even dictating what kind of pro bono work they can do. He's going after media companies and forcing CEOs to take action against late night talk show hosts. He's going after universities. He's going after anybody who disagrees with his agenda and with how he's gone about it. So, look, thank God we had the second of the No Kings days with record 7 million people peacefully protesting on the streets. I can't wait for the next one. We're going to need that continuous organizing and action as we get ready for the midterm elections next year.
So you've outlined a lot of the power that Donald Trump has and the way he's exerting it. What
Well,
can be done to stop him from
I don't think he
coming
has.
into California, from coming
Look,
into San Francisco?
look, I don't think he has the power that he thinks he has. He's trying to exercise it and will only stop when he gets reined back in. You
So
know,
how does he get reined back in?
look,
Because he seems to be succeeding in some of his darker desires here in terms of sending troops into cities, and San Francisco appears to be his next target.
right. In some ways, he is. In some ways, he isn't. The city of Los Angeles, again, the first of his targets earlier in the year, was actually successful in the lawsuits that they've brought, that his militarization was unlawful. He did not have the proper justification or grounds for it. And so things have kind of backed off. The National Guard that he had sent previously to Los Angeles are now he's trying to send him out to Portland. That tells you that Los Angeles was never out of control.
And so Los Angeles actually, you're saying, succeeded in repelling the efforts to send forces in there. Now, is that what Gavin Newsom will do when it comes to San Francisco? Launch the same kind of lawsuits? Will judges uphold those? I know they're trying to dissolve those orders in Portland and continue to send troops in. How do you see that fight playing out in San Francisco?
Look, if and when Donald Trump sends troops into San Francisco, the lawsuits will be filed immediately. We've heard that from the governor. We've heard that from the attorney general. We've heard that from others. Unfortunately, I think over time, this will work its way all the way up to the Supreme Court, and then we will see. But for the time being, there's been a lot of court cases, whether it's did he have the authority to send the troops into a city domestically? So far, the answer is no, but they're trying to push the envelope. The other significant case that they lost at a district court level was what I call the racial profiling justification for detaining and arresting people. That's the ICE standard right now. Again, under Tom Holman, if you speak with an accent, or depending on your occupation, or even the color of your skin, that's grounds enough to stop you, ask you for your papers, or assume that you may not be a citizen, and arrest you, detain you, not let you talk to family or even attorney for days and days on end. That is fundamentally wrong, but the Supreme Court is allowing it until the case gets resolved. So we do have a number of fights on our hands, but that's exactly what it is. We're fighting to rein in this administration. The Constitution is very clear. Everybody has a right to due process. And everybody has a right to not be racially discriminated against. So I still believe that at the end of the day, the Constitution and the law will prevail. But the Trump administration is appealing, dragging out. The Supreme Court is letting the practice continue until the litigation works its way all the way to the end. So we're going to have to continue to call it out for what it is. And when people organize, whether it's on No King's Day or protests and rallies and marches, these rapid response networks that have developed in cities that are targeted by Trump around the country, shedding light on what's happening, capturing the video when ICE and Border Patrol are out there. If they're doing their job by the book, that's one thing. But when the cruelty, the physicality, the abuse of it is too much, then accountability has to be part of it. And volunteers that have gone out there with their cell phones to capture these images have done a tremendous service to this debate.
It's speaking of those videos of arrests and those kinds of things in Portland and across the country, demonstrators are wearing costumes that are cartoons, that are frogs, that are dinosaurs, kind of trying to draw attention to the fact that calling these cities war zones and these demonstrators violent, trying to make this feel like it's some sort of violent riot is absurd. Is that effective? Are you proud of your constituents for finding creative ways to fight back against these things?
I'm so proud of the people of California that have stood up against this abuse, and Americans across the country. And yes, there are humorous ways to point this out, like the costumes that we are seeing out there. It just makes the contrast so clear and so strong. When Donald Trump says it's cities that are out of control, it's not just statistics that show otherwise. The video shows otherwise, and the American people see it for what it is. So again, this is all building towards not just the midterm election next year, when we flip the Senate, flip the House, maybe flip both, but even special elections that are upon us that can help shift a lot of what's happening right now. Remember, there's upcoming special elections, not just in Virginia, not just in New Jersey, not just in Pennsylvania, but this all important Proposition 50 in California. The people will be making their voices heard, yes, in marches and rallies, but
Can you tell
also
us a little more about Proposition 50? It's just such an interesting and important thing, and just want to educate people on exactly what that is.
right. So Proposition 50 in California puts before the voters of California a new congressional map. I think it's important to first underscore the only reason California leaders have chosen to do this is because Donald Trump made a call to Governor Abbott in Texas and said, find me 5 more Republican seats. He asked that the Texas leadership redraw their congressional map to sort of take away 5 Democratic seats and replace them with 5 new Republican House members, much in the same way that he called the Secretary of State of Georgia back in 2020 and said, finding 11,000 more votes. He knows his agenda is failing. The Republican Party knows that they're going to lose power at the ballot box, and the only way they can hold on to power is to rig the midterm elections before it even starts. So they're redistricting in Texas and other states to try to hold on to a very thin majority, and California leadership is not going to take it lying down. We know there's so much at stake for the future of our democracy, for the future of our fundamental rights, that California is now putting a map before the voters to say, hey, if Texas is going to try to find 5 more Republican seats, then let's put a new map that can maybe elect a few additional Democrats to offset that, and voters of California are going to have their say.
Is that going to be a domino effect? I mean, is this going to be a feature of every state's electoral map? Is that a good thing long term, or is it just a necessary thing short term, and we'll see what it means for the rest of the country later?
No, look, I think long term, the ideal scenario is that all 50 states do 2 things. Number one, they have their redistricting process once every 10 years after the census, when we get updated population numbers. And number two, that the lines are drawn by independent commissions. Let's get away from racial gerrymandering. Let's get away from the partisan gerrymandering that the Republican Party has been way too good at. But it needs to be all 50 states so there's actually a level playing field. But in the immediate sense, we know that the danger, the devastation being brought to us by the Trump administration has been so severe. There's too much at stake for California to take this lying down. And so California is doing what it's doing completely in response to what's happened in Texas. But we know Republicans are going after potential redistricting in Florida, in Ohio, in Indiana, in other states as well. Yeah, Democratic-led states should consider doing the same if possible.
And do they have time now to do that? Is there time for a Democratic response across multiple states to kind of continue to balance things out?
I think there's not a ton of time left, but there is still some time. Every state has a different process and timetable for their legislatures meeting or for new maps to be adopted. Again, the stakes are way high. We know not just the unpopularity of the Republican agenda, but the damage and devastation that is being caused right now, that we have to fight fire with fire.
Right. And so we talked earlier about ICE about National Guard being sent into California, about all those kinds of things. And you have a personal experience, I think more personal of an experience than most in terms of dealing with these federal presences here. Can you tell me what happened to you on, I believe it was June 12th of this year? Because I just think it's a story that underlines what's going on and how people are being treated.
Yeah, and I appreciate you bringing that up. I'm sure you've seen the video, as many people across the country have. I had the audacity of trying to ask a question. Yeah, a question at a press conference when Secret Service and other federal agents put me on the ground.
Hands behind your back.
If you let my hands go and put behind my back.
All right.
Flat on my chest, handcuffed me, and were escorting me out.
Excuse my language, but that is such unbelievable bullshit.
That's fucked up. It is.
It's hard to hear and not immediately have your brain go to what's happening to people behind closed doors, citizens, non-citizens, whomever that's being detained. You, a sitting senator, doing your job in public with cameras, presumably with some amount of power and people behind you and a team who can talk about this and push back. There are people with none of these resources who are forced to put up with this and are sent and deported and ripped away from their families, and some people deported to countries they've never been to. We truly are beyond the pale in a way in this country right now that I could not have seen coming, never would have seen coming only a few months into this administration, and cannot imagine where we'll be if the midterms don't go the way that, I certainly hope they do in terms of reining this administration back in. Where will we be in a couple of years? And with that, if you have anything you want to leave anyone with, whether it's about voting or particular issues to look out for or what you see in the future, please let us know now.
No, well, first of all, continue to stand with us on this fight to rein in healthcare costs for Americans. Right, this government shutdown fight is here and now. But yes, let's all do what we can to prepare for the midterms. And if National Guard is coming to your city, again, spread the word. People ought to know what their rights are. Citizens, legal immigrants, even undocumented immigrants, know your rights. Support the organizations that are out there doing the advocacy and the organizing, whether it's on immigration, whether it's on climate, whether it's on reproductive rights, any issue that you care about. And most importantly, make sure that every family member, every friend around you, every coworker, every neighbor who is eligible to vote, make sure they're registered and ready for the midterm elections, because they will be here before we know it.